what I call impediments to breaking or process breakers. As I said, I like Scrum because it allows me to look in the eyes of everybody who is in the room and find out who's really doing what they're supposed to be doing and who's not. You can tell. I mean, if they're coming in hungover, they've been out partying with their buddies. I used to employ a lot of Irish and Scotsmen up in San Francisco, and man, every time there was a soccer game going on, they were drinking Guinness till 2:30 in the morning, and then they would try to slam down 5 or 6 cups of tea, and they'd walk in all hungover. And I knew this one guy, when he was hungover, he wore a Spice Girls t-shirt every single freaking time. Because it was the only thing that was clean left in his closet, so I knew. And he wasn't going to be coding that day. So whatever he told me was BS. So, the wallflowers in the room, watch out for them, get them engaged. Scrum managers, this is your responsibility. The expert, I've had a lot of people who read a book, they went to a class, they got all overjoyed and zealous, and they went into the meeting, and we're going to do it this way because I just read about it and it sounds awesome, woohoo! And it may or may not have been the right way. One of the beauties of Agile is that you want to be able to foster communication amongst a group of developers. You want them to innovate. And if you're not innovating, if they're not communicating, if you've got one dominant personality in the room, you're not getting that advantage of Agile. So this is one of the types of personalities that can break process on you. The false guru. I've had this guy twice in 2 different companies. And everybody goes to him because he's been there the longest. He knows what the code does. He knows where all the bodies are buried within the code. And most of the time, he's the one that buried them there. And I swear, this is the reason why I'm a metrics fanatic when it comes to software development now. So I finally got some good bug tracking software in. I got some security checking software, and I started tracking my false gurus. And in the first development cycle where we had good metrics, that developer in the first case was responsible for 52% of all of the bugs, period, on a 15-person developer team. And 70 some odd percent, I don't remember the exact number now, but of all the security bugs. The freaking login prompt had an injection attack in it because he didn't filter. And so I sent him to training, told him about the software, we were tracking what he was doing. Next quarter was 54%, and I fired him. Sometimes people just break process because they don't care, it's not important to them. Sometimes you got to make that tough decision. Sometimes they just can't be trained. And I will tell you that when I started in my last company, there were a couple of different Agile projects going, and the one that I was responsible for, I handpicked the 5 or 6 people I wanted because I knew that they would adapt to the process. And I moved them over, and I let the rest sit on the waterfall process because I knew they weren't going to change, and I knew they didn't care. Can't always fire everybody. You need to motivate people, and you need to get your C players to behave or put them in a position to succeed where they can act as if they're B players. But for Agile, you want people who are going to be willing to do what it takes to get in there every day, face to face, and do the grind. And then finally, there's the miss by the book, and these are the ones who absolutely positively will not move away from Schwaber's religion. And if that's the way that Schwaber did it, that's the way they're going to do it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because if you don't do exactly what he said, you're going to fail. I think it also mentioned some of the chickens already. I've also mentioned some stories about how sales teams will put pressure on individual development organizations. And they will walk down the hallway. I've had it even during Agile where they will go in, they'll sneak in about 7:30 at night because they know the developers are there. They will go in their cubes and they'll go, hey buddy, can you do me a favor? I've got this 50K, 100K, 250K commission. They'll tell them that we're gonna sign Citigroup tomorrow. We're gonna sign Wells Fargo tomorrow if we can just have this. Can you get it for me, buddy? So they are focused, they are determined, they are sneaky, they are devious, and in critical features. And money on the table has a very profound way of altering your development process. So your product managers have got to understand this and be focused, and your development team has got to know to say no as well. So anyway, just kind of wrapping up. Actually, this is going a little faster than I thought. Understand that some tasks you're going to modify to fit Agile. Other tasks you are going to have to modify Agile to fit the tasks. Things you can do to prepare for an Agile process. If you can do a risk-based prioritization, that's way easier said than done. Train your developers, enforce testing. There's lots of different types of security testing out there. And I don't want you guys sending developers out to SANS testing just, willy-nilly. You need to carefully pick what types of testing and maybe send some of your developers to some types of code security, white box review, send some of them to black box or understanding how assessment tests works, get them trained on Metasploit, whatever you have. Understand that there are every sprint security requirements. Document them in advance. Let the development team know that they're not done with their sprint until every sprint security requirements are done. And if you can, not all of you can, some of you can, but it might take a year, like Microsoft, identify the bad code and the bad modules. I don't really have a good security example on this, but I do have a good disaster recovery example. So we had one of our false gurus write the tape backup routines, and he implemented cryptography on it, and nobody really did the testing properly because it turned out that you couldn't ever actually recover the backups because it could never find the key because he hadn't put it in the right place. So you want to identify problem developers too. These are the things that you can prepare for. You modify the process, bucket listing and aging, get that stuff out of there, identify some of the issues that shouldn't be lingering out there that are relatively easy to fix. And you can't be prioritizing every single feature over every single security issue. Leverage Agile to figure out what to do. I mean, one of the great things about it is, if you pose the development team with the task of securing the code, a lot of times they come up with better solutions than you can. I mean, it's not just your product manager and the one security guy. Let them figure it out. Pose them the challenge when you're prepping for a particular sprint. And hire an independent reviewer. I cannot tell you how much this helps. I learned threat modeling by watching a guy who really freaking knew it, and now I know it. And it's impressed upon me the number of different ways a system can be destroyed. And that means that if you hire somebody, you want the value of them not only finding the problems with your code, but you want them training your developers. You want to have a developer sit with them and watch, see what they do. I will tell you that there are very few people that I've met that can do white box testing. There are some people who are really good at it and they hate it. There are other people who really want to do it because they want to be the expert, but aren't particularly good at it. So it's rare to find the person who is both good at it and wants to do it. But you do want to find people like this externally to knock your stuff around and to do it in such a way that your internal politics and your white elephants are exposed for what they are. So modify the release. One of the great things about waterfall is that there are several gates that go along the way, naturally. And I find that they get de-emphasized within Agile. So if you were running a waterfall-based process, quality assurance is a gate. That's what it is. And some people do a little bit of quality of assurance within a normal sprint. Sometimes they will append it on, and they will actually do kind of a pseudo waterfall where they actually add on fuzzing every third sprint or maybe every second sprint or wrap a sprint with a QA sprint of its own. That's one of the things you can do. And one of the things you also want to do is you want to make sure that you've got somebody, if you've got a security professional, that the entire stack that you're basing your deployment on, that they're actually doing a review for patch management. And you want to be able to sync all of that so when you release the sprint, that all of the underlying software is patched and in accordance. And if that means being behind patches, I know sometimes because you are developing on one version and then you're going to try to release with a patch version, not such a good idea. So that, once again, sometimes what I will do is literally, I'll be a little bit behind on patching, but I'll have the QA cycle right after the sprint of basically the same sprint duration that they do all the tests, and they'll do it on the patched versions. So hopefully I've impressed upon you guys that Agile does affect security. And it also affects the decision makers about what gets worked on and how it gets worked on. And so, Agile security, in my estimation, relies more on individual talent and less on automation. You've got to get your people trained. You've got to have some sort of dedication to it. It's got to be part of their mantra. This is easier said than done, I know that, but it can be done. It's not that we can't adapt most of the things we do today, but they do need some sort of tweaking, tuning, or other modification to move from a waterfall-based process into an Agile process. And then don't be afraid of modifying the process itself. I mean, that's what it's there for. It's a tool. It's arbitrary. You can make it anything you want. Thank you.